remember starting to watch this channel at a time when I was just as angry as Glenn, and look how it all transformed.
Hey man, I'm still angry. Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Yes, this is your favorite angry Canadian coming at you from Spectre Sound Studios in Windsor, Ontario. By the time this episode dates, that should be Friday the 26th, and NAMM will be in full swing. So if you're at the show and you want to say hello, please do. Come over and say hi. I always will make time, if possible, to meet every single one of you guys because, you know, hey, though I wouldn't be here, so believe me, I'm fucking grateful for that. As long as I don't have a meeting to get to, believe me, I will make time. Anyway, it's been a couple of interesting weeks getting this all hooked up and debugged and starting to work with it and starting to make content with it. Again, it's a little bit of moving forward, a little bit of moving back, just trying to get used to the whole console workflow. It is a bit of a learning curve, let's just put it that way. Anyway, let's get to your comments and questions right now.
I forget about my soapbox for a moment at this point in background. I was born in San Francisco, was raised in the Bay Area. I was very much going to clubs in the Bay Area. Thrash movement was happening. Unfortunately, there was always this undertone of us versus them with other music genres. Not saying that bands had anything to do with this cough, Exodus cough, but there was always the feeling that you could either be 100% into that music or you weren't part at all. Years later, finding out a lot of these people were into alt music. Do you know how much shit I got for wearing a Duran Duran shirt I got?
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Fuck the haters, Rio, 7 of the Dragon Tiger were great. Like, I was suddenly almost an outsider to some of the people I knew. But then again, I see how guys from some of those bands wearing Susie Sue shirts for Joy Diversion shirt just boggles my mind. Thankfully, my friends and bandmates are all into all sorts of music. One is pretty much a goth with metal tendencies. I'm into all, but also black metal and classical. Drummer into everything. If it's music, he listens. It gives us so much more to pull from and just enjoy making music. And on that note, I owe someone some guitar tracks. Fuck. Bye.
Wow, that was certainly a mouthful, but I think I understand the overall gist you were trying to make. Now, what you're talking about are Puritans within a genre. I mean, like, here's the thing, man. As a teenager in the mid to late 80s, that wasn't just localized to San Francisco, man. Believe me, I used to get shit from other metalheads when I was in high school because I wasn't listening to the right type of metal bands. Everybody was getting into Metallica and Megadeth, and I was like pulling up Sad Wings of Destiny and Sin After Sin. I was like, ew, what's that? Why are you listening to that? That's lame. You should listen to the heavier stuff. Why don't you get into something modern? So, it's not saying I don't like Metallica and Megadeth. I fucking adore Megadeth, especially as far as guitar playing is concerned. But there's more to it than just one particular genre. Yes, you mentioned Duran Duran. That's hilarious. I just went to go see Duran Duran a couple months ago. You know, we saw Nile Rodgers open for them. They were fucking fantastic. Sure, why not? Go check out some other genres. And I'll loop back on what Geddy Lee said in his book, My Effin' Life. It's fucking spectacular. If you haven't got a copy yet, get it. There's so much great information on there. He said this, and I thought this was great, is if you have 3 influences, you're derivative. If you have 100 influences, then you're original. And if you listen to a lot of prog metal these days, you can tell a lot of bands only have 3 influences.
First, congratulations on your purchase. Second, would you be willing to do a blind shootout of a previous mix versus the same tracks mixed on a Neve? You always go on about doing A-B comparisons. Now it's your turn.
Absolutely. I'm going to do that when I get back from NAMM. I'm going to do a blind shoot. I'm going to do 3-4 of my best mixes that I did on the digital system, and then I'm going to run them through the Neve, and I'm just going to play them back, blind shoot it. You guys tell me which you like better. Definitely going to be an interesting video. Should be an awful lot of fun. Stay tuned for that one. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the freaking subscribe button so you get notified when it comes out. Seriously, guys, more than half of you who watch the show haven't subscribed yet, and it would really be a massive help to the show and help me grow this thing and make better content for you guys and make more entertaining videos with a bigger subscriber base. I need your help to make that happen, so please hit the button.
What converters are you using to feed that beautiful console?
Focusrite Red 16 line right now, and it does the job quite well, but I need another 16 channels for the back 16 connectors, because this is actually a 32 channel analog board when you've got it configured right for mixing. I'm looking at a couple of different older converters that will connect via my RME MIDI setup. So there's that. Of course, I'm going to NAMM. Who knows what I'm going to find when I'm there as well. Here's the big thing about converters. You know, you go on gear sluts and that sort of thing, and you always hear converters, 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 converters. And most of it's just absolute bullshit, because you're really talking about a 0.0003% difference in total harmonic distortion. In other words, it's fucking imperceptible. Stop worrying about your fucking converters. The ones you have are absolutely fine. If you're releasing music to the world, you need DistroKid. I've been using them since 2015, and they kick ass. If you want to get your tracks out to Apple Music, Amazon, Google Play, and Spotify, and even 150 smaller sites, then cough up a whopping $22.99 a year, and you can keep 100% of your earnings. DistroKid also has tons of cool features like Spotify Hyperfollow for more followers, change your image on Apple Music and iTunes, and you can add credits and liner notes too. You can now list musicians, contact info, social media profiles, and hundreds of other roles. And what's really cool, there's now a mobile app so you can upload your music on the go, track your stats, and track your earnings too. DistroKid Splits allows you to pay your collaborators automatically by percentage so you can concentrate on making music instead of learning how to be an accountant. You can change your splits, plus add or remove collaborators at any time, and collaborators even get a 50% discount on their own DistroKid account. There's 3 levels of plans available: Musician, Musician Plus, and even one for labels. Sadly, there's no bass player, only one. They did make it simple enough for anybody to follow. I use DistroKid to put my music online, including this channel's theme song, The Eagle Has Landed, and I even got a license through DistroKid for that cover of Moon on the Water that we did a while back. And that's one of my favorite features: easy cover song licenses. What are you doing watching me? Get over to distrokid.com/VIP/Spectre today and grab yourself a 7% discount on your first year. DistroKid's the easiest way to get your music out to the world. Follow the link in the description below. Now back to the show.
There are Neve consoles, and then there are Neve-ish consoles. This ain't an 8068.
Oh, hey, very observant there, Graffini19. Comments like that are one of the main reasons I stopped hanging out on Gear Sluts, just because the snobbishness was just through the fucking roof. Nothing was ever good enough unless it was made, in the mid-70s by such and such person that had this, it had that. It's just, oh, shut the fuck up already. So you say this ain't at 8068. Hey, you know what? Congratulations. You've got eyes. My big question is, do you have ears? Stay tuned for what's going to come out of this over the next couple months.
LMAO blows $100,000 on a Neve, and it's not even a real 1073 analog board. Bro just got a Pro Tools controller.
Is that Bob Zamuda 3940? Okay, Bob, let me lay it out for you. I'll try and talk slowly so you can understand as well. Okay, this is a hybrid console. See this? This is the analog section. This is 16 preamps, 16 EQs, and 16 faders, but it also has an extra 16 on the monitoring, so you can actually run 32 channels during mixdown. And this half of the board here, that's the digital section. That gives me DAW control. And I've got a touchscreen here as well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. Yes, I probably could have got an old school analog console, would have cost an awful lot of money, and there would have been nowhere to put a fucking computer monitor on, because guess what? That's how we make records these days. The reason I went with the Genesis Black is because of the hybrid situation. I don't know, maybe unstick your head from your ass, take a look around, and see if you can try one out. You just might like it.
Now to run all your cheap guitars through it.
Well, I just ran this $499 Schecter through it the other day, and you know what? It sounded fantastic. Because guess what? The sound comes through the speaker, dumbass! I told you guys I'm still angry. You know what pisses me off? It's not bad questions, it's stupid statements like that.
Glenn really made a 15-minute video to do exactly what he rips on Gibson buyers for doing, justifying a purchase.
Film School Fulci 9183. Dude, clearly you have not been paying attention. Once again, we go with the stupid statements. I've never ripped on Gibson buyers for buying a Gibson. I've ripped on Gibson for charging so much for guitars that won't stay in tune and shitty paint jobs. If you guys want to spend that kind of money on that kind of guitar, that's fine. And there's the thing, there's nothing wrong with expensive guitars. Like, take a look at this incredibly beautiful, one-of-a-kind, vicious guitar from Toronto. Here's my thing, is if I'm going to spend that kind of money on an instrument, I'm going to want to get something maybe more of a one-off, something like this, because it is just plain incredible. Or how about this composite guitar from Rough Guitars from Poland? This thing's absolutely flawless. It's great. There's much better places to spend your money than on Gibson. Hell, if you're in a Les Paul style, go check out a Heritage. There's nothing wrong with enjoying nice things. Just make sure you educate yourself before you put your money down, because it pisses me off to see people throw their money away on stuff that they could get better results from.
Is there a $2,000 to $3,000 version of something like this?
Well, for $4,000, you can get yourself a Neve 1073 OPX, which is going to be like 8 of the 1073 preamps. But that's really designed to work with the 8824 console, which is kind of the back end, and that'll give you all the faders so you can load the preamps up and stuff. So, maybe not. And once again, you can get the preamps, but you're going to need output faders, you're going to need EQs, you're going to need, the whole bus section, and then you don't get DAW control. I don't know. Maybe there is, not to my knowledge, but I could be wrong. If you guys have some suggestions for alternatives to, you know, a ridiculously expensive Neve console, please leave some suggestions in the description below. Maybe we can check those out at some point. That might be kind of fun, actually. As always, I'm super happy to hear your suggestions.
I went to college and spent 22 grand on a broadcast degree. Now I work in a warehouse chucking heavy-ass shit on skids. But I was taught one thing in college that actually had real-world value. Persistence pays off. This accomplishment of yours is a fine example of that statement. Cheers and congrats.
Yeah, did I mention I graduated college in 1992? That was 32 years ago, so persistence pays off. But, you know, your results may vary. They might be able to take a little bit longer than you thought. Here's a question I've got for you guys, and I've really been curious about this. How many of you guys have gone to audio school, and how many of you guys have actually landed a job in the field? And I don't mean, you know, like when Full Sail says, oh, you got a job at a record store. That's a job in the field. No, I mean like working in a studio or working in a radio station or TV station or something like that. You know, involved in audio production one way or another. How many of you guys have actually plopped down the money and gotten results for your money? That's a question I think I should have asked ages ago. Let me know. Comments below.
If you think college will get you a job, do some research before taking out a loan. That sentence right there is one of the most profound facts ever spoken on a YouTube channel. Kids, this man could not be more right. There's no quick and easy way. This is the wisdom kids need to hear today.
Notice I didn't say college was bad. I'm grateful for my college experience. I had some wonderful professors. Shout out to Vladimir the Impaler Kablek. He was my prof in second and third year in my major, and he was just a wonderful mentor. He pushed fucking hard, but you know, he taught me some great work ethic along the way. So I am grateful for that, even though if it didn't land me a job immediately at the end of college, I had to go into business for myself. But here I am 32 years later doing the thing. Ultimately, when it comes to the college question, don't talk to the recruiters. Don't talk to the people trying to sell you on going to that college. Talk to people who went through the program. I mean, we've got Facebook, we've got LinkedIn. We should be able to reach out to some people there. Go on your prospective college's website and look up a list of graduates and see if you can reach out to people and see if they had actually landed them a job. Because going through life after college with a mountain of debt that you have no reasonable way of paying off is not a life that's going to be a lot of fun.
Glenn, people who buy real amps are idiots. They're a waste of money and space because software can do the exact same thing. Also, Glenn.
Remember what I was saying about stupid statements? Dude, what the fuck have I ever said that? Can you quote me on that? What episode? What's the timestamp? Here's an idea. Instead of fucking pulling statements out of your ass that I didn't actually say, back your words up with evidence, you stupid fuck. What have I got over here? Oh, hey, there's my bad cat up here. Because I'm working with that right now. I did that on the Spectre video. I love real amps. I use them all the time. Where the fuck did you ever say that I should get rid of tube amps? I pulled them out of my control room and I bring them in one at a time as needed. That's as far as I've gone. Have I sold them off? No. Oh yeah, that reminds me, guys, another reason to subscribe. You know, I'm coming up on 550,000 subs, and I think I'm going to give away my early 90s 5150 when that happens. It's not a 6505. It's not a reissue, not a rebadge. It's a real signature series 5150, and when I hit 550, I'm gonna raffle it off, and I'm gonna ship it somewhere in the world to some lucky son of a bitch. So hey, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and then we'll make that happen. And oh yeah, the reason I'm giving it away, well, I've got 3 versions of that amp, and it's kind of taking up a little too much space. No, I'm not getting rid of all my amps. I'm just giving away a very nice tube amp. That's all. Was that clear enough for you there, Gen Z 7098?
It's silly to compare this to an American Strat. You compare it to a Mexican Strat.
Hey, Fluff Killer, thanks so much for writing in. Obviously, you're a little butthurt there about me comparing the Spectre Strat versus the American Ultra Strat. Apparently, I broke a rule there. That's great that I should compare it to a Mexican Strat. Here's the big question. Why? Remember, guys, stupid statements.
Any chance of getting another episode on camera stuff? Personally debating between Panasonic G9 II, Micro Four Thirds, or Lumix S52X. Maybe you can save people money with recommendations. Cheers.
Well, that really depends on if Panasonic wants to do something with me, because I don't have the budget to go buy an S52X. I had a GH6 and I was very, very unhappy with that, and they did reach out to me about that, and they're like, yeah, we can get it fixed, no worries. And that was... You know, there's a whole debacle with somebody at VizTech saying, "Oh, well, it's over 30 days. You can't return it." And you know, they're like, "No, we can return it." Yeah, the guy who said I couldn't return it doesn't work there anymore. Jack, my editor, knows that whole story. He was with me there at VizTech that day, and thanks for coming along for that one, Jack. That was an awful lot of fun. Anyway, I'd love to do some more camera stuff. Like I said, I'll reach out to Panasonic. We'll see if that can happen. Here's the thing: if there is enough interest, you know, that gives me a little bit of ammunition to work with. So, hey, if you want to see some more camera stuff, leave a comment below. Let me know. I can send them some screenshots and maybe we can take a look at the S5 too or whatever. For what it's worth right now, I'm working with the Sony stuff. I've got an FX3 here. I've got a A7 IV back there for my desk camera. For NAMM and 70,000 tons of metal, I'm going to be bringing this. This is the ZVE1. This thing's just been spectacular. This is like a full frame iPhone camera, basically. It's like hit record, it fucking works. There's little dicking around. It's not cheap, but the 20, what do I got here? This is a 16 to 35 lens. And with the onboard stabilization, you don't even need a gimbal. This thing's fucking killer. But is there any life left in Micro Four Thirds? I don't know. That's a very good question. That's something maybe it's worth pursuing. Who knows? We'll take a look. And the one thing about Micro Four Thirds, I did this show on a GH5 for years and years and years. It wasn't until like the last couple of years that I started working with different cameras. I've still got my S1H for that matter. It's for sale, by the way. If anybody wants a really badass full frame cinema camera, I've got a Panasonic S1H for sale, paired up with a anamorphic lens as well, because it's just really not practical for doing YouTube content a lot. So if somebody's interested, hey, PM me. Maybe we can work something out. All right, that was why that question was last, because it was slightly off topic instead of the audio stuff. Anyways, guys, thanks so much for clicking on today's video. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Once again, I'm going to be on the floor at NAMM, so if you see me, come say hi. Anyway, you guys have an amazing weekend, and as always, be excellent to each other. I'll see you next time. You guys wonder why I fucking hate musicians. Told you I was still angry.